When we put too much trust in others without seeing the signs of abuse, our good intentions can turn into a dangerous trap. Along the way, we will meet people we trust and think are really caring for us, but reality may show otherwise. Recognizing the signs of exploitation is an important skill that helps us stay safe and avoid unhealthy relationships. In a world full of encounters and conflicts where intimate masks and hidden agendas are worn with skill, finding out who really cares about us is an art that requires both intuition and keen observation. Just like a skilled gardener can tell the difference between plants that give nutrients and plants that take them away, we need to learn to tell who in our lives cares about us. Obviously, you're here because you want to grow as a person. In this talk, we'll look at how to figure out these human mysteries in a wise way, showing you how to have more real and satisfying relationships. Before we start, I want to remind you of something important. Please stay until the end of the movie. Each part of this movie has something useful to teach you that might change the way you see things, so take your time. Come on this trip with us and make sure you don't miss anything. Let's begin. 15. Not keeping your word. When people make promises and then break them, it's like building a big castle out of sand. These people are great at creating big visions that promise strong fortresses of commitment and support, but their words are like shifting sands and lack the solidity of actual deeds. They raise expectations like a skilled architect designing grand structures, but when it's time to back up their promises with actions, they fall apart, revealing it's common for people to break big promises right before you need them, leaving you feeling let down and discouraged. Not only is it upsetting, but it's also a clear sign of what they really want. They're just making claims to get what they want from you without giving anything in return. Not keeping your word is a test that shows what you're really like. It separates people who see relationships as an exchange of respect and help between two people from people who see relationships only as ways to get what they want. People who are left alone in these situations often learn the painful but necessary truth that not all commitments are based on honesty and integrity. Not keeping vows is a key behavior to look out for when trying to figure out and spot people who might try to take advantage of others. It's a behavior that says more about a person's character and intentions than any fancy speech. When we realize this, we can better understand how to deal with people and keep our feelings and trust in check. 14 words that are negative or condescending. People who often use others for their own gain are very good at making victims feel weak by saying hurtful things in an indirect way. These comments that seem harmless but are really harmful because they are passed off as jokes or normal talk. Insults that are meant to weaken rather than boost slowly erode your confidence and self-esteem, leaving you with a long-lasting sense of doubt and nervousness, whether they're making fun of your accomplishments, your goals, or your problems. These people hurt you with their words like a dangerous weapon, and the effects last long after the talk is over. Their behavior is like psychological warfare as they constantly play down your successes and dreams. These people are trying to change the balance of power in the relationship. They do this on purpose to make you doubt yourself and feel unsure, which makes it easier for them to control and manipulate you. Their lower self-esteem boosts their own, making them more powerful in the relationship. Also, hurtful comments like these often show their own deep-seated insecurities and feelings of inferiority. By putting down others, they try to hide their own weaknesses and project an image of superiority. This behavior shows that they can't have healthy, caring, and helpful relationships with others. Understanding and recognizing this consistent pattern of behavior is important. It lets you see past the surface charm that these people often show and see the toxic dynamics at play in the relationship. It also tells you whether to deal with the behavior directly with the person, by setting clear boundaries, or to leave the negative environment altogether. 13th, one-sided gain. This might show up in different parts of a relationship, whether it's about money, feelings, or everyday things. For example, someone might ask for loans or resources a lot of the time, saying they'll pay them back or reciprocate, but never doing so. Emotionally, they might depend on their partner for support, validation, and attention, but give little or nothing in return. When it comes to practical matters, they might ask for favors a lot of the time. They vanish or say they're too busy when their partner needs help, or time, but they really do need it. One side is benefited while the other side suffers in a parasitic dynamic found in nature. Like a parasite, the person takes food, whether it's mental, financial, or practical support without giving anything in return. Giving back proportionally or enough to their counterpart's well-being, this imbalance can finally drain the giver's resources, leaving them worn out. Ed was unhappy with the pursuit of one-sided advantage, usually comes from being very self-centered and not having any care for others. The person sees relationships through a transactional lens, judging interactions based only on what they can do for them instead of what they could do for others. This view of relationships is fundamentally flawed because it doesn't take into account how important it is to respect and support each other, and for good connections to work both ways. To see this pattern, you have to pay close attention to the ongoing imbalance of give and take and the feeling of always getting the short end of the stick in the relationship. You also have to be honest about whether your interactions make you feel valued and respected, or used and unappreciated. 12. Don't pay attention to your wants or needs. That's where the exploiter's needs and wants come in. Their actions and words are like sharp blades cutting into your mental balance, leaving you feeling unappreciated and overlooked in the relationship. This disregard can show up in different ways, such as how they consistently ignore your emotional needs, failing to offer support or understanding. Such behavior can be seen as center stage. It may be clear that they don't care about your thoughts and decisions when you're weak, because they may drown out your voice with their own and miss your successes. Worse, make fun of your problems and your struggles. This is more than just being insensitive. It's a form of neglect used to keep control in the relationship by ignoring your feelings and needs. The exploiter creates a setting where your self-esteem is low, making you more vulnerable to their control and influence. It's a subtle form of emotional manipulation that has serious effects. If you want to be listened to, understood, and appreciated, it's basic. If these needs are consistently ignored, it can lead to a loss of self-respect and a feeling of being alone, even in a relationship that seems to be going well. To get through these situations, it's important to know the signs of emotional neglect. This knowledge will help you stay away from relationships that put your emotional health at risk. Number 11. Emotional manipulation usually starts with the manipulator giving the impression of caring and attentiveness, but this quickly turns into a way for them to make their victim feel anxious, inadequate, or guilty. They become skilled at pressing emotional buttons, praising you to make you feel good when it suits their purpose, and then quickly criticizing or undermining you to plant seeds of self-doubt and dependence. This kind of handling often gets to the core of your emotional stability. They may play down your successes or play up your failures to keep you feeling like you can't believe your own achievements. They may use circumstances to make you feel guilty for doing normal things. Shifting blame to make sure you always play the part of the defender. In a relationship where emotional manipulation is happening, things are not going right. The person pulling the strings decides when to show affection and when to back off, making the other person feel unstable. It's not about helping each other grow. It's about one person getting what they want at the price of the other person's health. Needs a careful eye to find these patterns. It's about noticing when someone is always playing with your feelings. To understand how these relationships affect how you see yourself and your feelings, you have to look deep inside yourself. Wellness number 10. These relationships don't offer real help. When you tell someone about your hopes, dreams, projects, or problems, they might not be interested or only offer token support. They might nod along, give you a lukewarm good luck, or say they're behind you, but their actions don't match their words. When you need real help, advice, or just someone to listen during hard times, they're nowhere to be found. If they do try to help, it's often shallow and goes away when you need it the most. They are self-centered, so they only care about your successes or failures, problems or hobbies, and how they can help you if it fits with their own plans. They see relationships as transactions, and they decide how much emotional investment to make based on what they can get out of them. This way of thinking leads to an uneven dynamic, where one person always gives, whether it's time, care, or resources, and the other person only takes, leaving understanding. This lack of real support is important for understanding the dynamics of your relationship with this person. You need to be honest about how balanced your interactions are. Understanding and dealing with this lack of support is important for making sure you put your time and effort into relationships that give back, where support goes both ways and is truly meaningful. Number 9. Always competing. Imagine a game of chess, where every move is meant to both strengthen your own position and weaken your opponent's over time. In the same way, someone who wants to take advantage of you will likely see your relationship as a game, and every success or problem you face will be seen as a chance for them to show their dominance, whether it's by overshadowing your achievements or subtly questioning them. What you decide, their behavior is motivated by a desire to maintain an edge in this competitive mindset. This perpetual rivalry manifests in various ways in a work context. They may strive to outdo you in presentations or steal the limelight. For your contributions within personal bonds, they might diminish your experiences or triumphs frequently, contrasting them with their own to elevate their significance. Even in everyday interactions, you can sense them striving to portray themselves as superior, more astute or more accomplished. At the core of this behavior lies profound insecurity and a distorted view of self-worth, where they gauge their value not by their own achievements but by surpassing others. This mindset transforms every interaction into a competition, where their victory necessitates someone else, specifically you suffering defeat. It's a perspective where collaborative advancement is eclipsed by the urge to outperform and overshadow others. Interacting with someone who's always in competition mode can really take a toll on you emotionally. It turns every interaction into a tense battleground where teamwork and support are replaced by rivalry. Instead of celebrating your wins, they see them as threats to their own status. And when you're going through a rough patch, they're not there with empathy, but rather, they see it as a chance to one-up you. Recognizing and understanding this pattern is key. It empowers us to set healthy boundaries, and if feasible, steer the relationship towards a more positive and collaborative direction. It's about realizing that the essence of any fruitful relationship lies in mutual respect and support, rather than in an unending competition for dominance. If you made it this far, please show your support by giving us a thumbs up. Your opinion is very important to us, so feel free to leave a comment below and tell us what you think. Now let's move on to the important and exciting second part of today's video. We keep going because of your support. Thanks for sticking with us, and let's keep going on this road together. 8th number, silence at crucial times. This behavior is like a friend who only comes to the parties and disappears when things go wrong. When things are going well, they're there enjoying the fun and benefiting from your friendship. But when life throws you a curveball and you need someone to lean on, they're nowhere to be found, leaving you to weather the storm by yourself. These people only value relationships when they help them get what they want out of them. When you're going through personal problems, job setbacks, or emotional turmoil, their lack of support says a lot. They only help when it's good for them, or when they stand to gain something. When you need real support and understanding the most, their true priorities and lack of commitment to the relationship become painfully clear. Being let down in this way can have a big effect. It can plant seeds of betrayal and disenchantment that slowly erode the trust and reliability you once put in the relationship. It can make you question the nature of the bond itself, which often leads to a reassessment. It means realizing that unwavering support through good times and bad is a key part of any worthwhile relationship. Recognizing someone's absence during your worst times is a great way to tell who really cares about your well-being and who is only interested in themselves. Number 7. Loss of reciprocity. Imagine going on a road trip with someone who takes the wheel and deals with traffic, fills up the gas tank, and plans the route, while the other person sits in the passenger seat and doesn't do a thing to help or give directions. This situation is like a friendship, where neither person gives or takes. One person always takes the lead in moving the relationship forward, while the other person stays quiet or doesn't care, not doing their fair share to help. This unfairness and lack of effort can show up in many ways. You may find that you keep starting talks and planning activities with them, but they don't seem interested or committed. It could be your constant support and understanding without getting the same in return or help when you need it. Not even in by telling personal stories and letting down their guard, you may notice that you are open and honest while they act guarded or uninterested. This lack of return is caused by their self-centered view of relationships. The relationship is just a tool that can be used when it's handy, and neither person really wants to give or take from the relationship. Their involvement is planned and solely motivated by personal gain, with no regard for the other person's feelings or needs. This way of thinking goes against what healthy relationships are all about, sharing moments together and making sure that everyone has an equal amount of emotional involvement. Recognizing that there is no reciprocity calls for a careful look at the interactions. Dynamics means asking yourself if the other person is also working to strengthen the bond, or if you are doing most of the work. It also means being honest about how satisfying or draining the relationship feels, and whether it is balanced or out of balance. 6. Gossiping and breaking trust. This situation is like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, talking about other people behind their backs is wrong. Creates a false sense of trust and friendship. It may look like they're confiding in you and pulling you into what seems to be an inner circle of trust, but the other side of the sword is darker. They may break your trust by talking about private or sensitive information you shared with them with other people. Beyond just breaking trust, this betrayal is a deliberate attempt to undermine your sense of safety and privacy in the relationship. It displays a flagrant disregard for personal details and a clear lack of respect for keeping things private. The person uses gossip as a way to get ahead in social situations, often making themselves look like the main source of information. By spreading and twisting information, they hope to change people's minds, make friends, or even start fights, all for their own benefit. This behavior shows a practical view of relationships in which people are seen as tools to achieve personal goals. Private information is used as a trading chip and everything goes. This kind of behavior has a lot of different effects on the victim. It causes an atmosphere of mistrust and uncertainty. When personal information is handled badly, it can hurt people's reputations, put stress on relationships, and lower self-confidence. This can weaken the base of what could have been a caring and reliable relationship. To stay safe from these types of harmful people in relationships, it's important to notice this behavior pattern. This means paying attention to what they say about other people behind their backs and being careful about what you share with them. Seeing how much they value privacy and how often they spread rumors can tell you a lot about their character and intentions. To protect your self-respect and make sure your personal boundaries are respected in all of your interactions, you need to be aware of this pattern and do something about it. Number 5, choose your own supply. They're like a locked door that will only open when it's convenient for them, while you're like an open door that lets people in whenever they need you. This limited availability creates an imbalance, like a street where one side is always busy and the other is always empty. In this dynamic, you're always ready to listen, lend a hand, or guide someone. Help yourself with your time. Emotions and resources are readily accessible to them, like pages waiting to be read in an open book. On the flip side, the other person's availability is akin to a shooting star, infrequent, unpredictable, and subject to their discretion. This inconsistency in their accessibility isn't merely a result of conflicting schedules or external demands. Rather, it's a deliberate choice, a strategic maneuver on their part. Their limited presence serves a dual purpose. It maintains a comfortable distance for them and elevates their sense of control by rationing their availability. They create a scenario where you're left craving more, often feeling indebted for even the slightest attention or interaction they offer. In these kinds of relationships, when you try to connect or involve yourself, you're frequently faced with excuses, delays, or outright neglect. Your messages might get left unread, your calls unanswered, and your needs brushed aside. And when they do engage, it often revolves around what suits them, making the relationship feel more like a one-way street, where you're just there for their convenience, rather than being valued as an equal partner. This pattern keeps happening and makes you feel bad about yourself because you start to doubt your efforts and the other person's importance to them. It makes you angry and frustrated when you realize that their efforts and availability aren't being returned in kind. It's important to recognize the pattern of selective availability that keeps happening. This means taking a step back and evaluating the relationship's balance of effort and presence without bias. It means realizing that good connections are built on respect, reciprocity, and a genuine interest in each other's well-being. If number 4 makes you feel guilty, picture guilt as the puppeteer's strings, gently nudging the good-hearted person's conscience and leading them down a road they might not want to go. The puppet master. Behind these tricks are very good at appealing to your sense of duty, fairness, or empathy. They may ask you to do something in a way that making you say no would make you look heartless or selfish. Alternatively, they may subtly remind you of past favors or events that you are now expected to honor. The way they do this is often sneaky and dishonest. They start with small gestures or concessions and slowly build up to bigger demands over time. Using guilt to make people feel good about themselves and their abilities makes this strategy work. The manipulator changes these good qualities into tools for control, so you may find yourself doing things not because you want to or because you respect the other person, but because you feel like you have to, which can lead to feelings of resentment or exhaustion. For the sake of your emotional health and personal limits, you need to be able to tell when someone is using guilt to manipulate you. To do this, you need to pay attention to the emotional dynamics in the interactions you have with others. It also means being able to tell the difference between genuine pleas for help and attempts to take advantage of your kindness. Third, not being personally interested in conversations with these people. It's usually all about them. They'll share their stories and problems, eagerly expecting your full attention and empathy. But when it's your turn to talk, they often lose interest. They might nod along without really listening, change the subject quickly, or just seem to not care. Your problems and experiences in life, no matter how big or small, don't seem to bother them. This isn't just about not being able to hold a talk or being polite. It's a clear sign of what they value. By dominating the conversation and not listening to what you have to say, they're making it clear that their wants, needs, and life come first. It's a subtle form of selfishness, where they think the world swirls around them and you're only there to agree with them. When your basic human need to be heard and understood isn't met, these kinds of interactions can really bring you down. They can make you feel small and frustrated. Over time, it can weaken the relationship, making you feel like you're just there to play a part in their life instead of being an equal partner. To tell when someone isn't interested in you personally, you need to understand how your interactions work and be aware of how one-sided talks make you feel. This helps you figure out if the relationship is fulfilling for both of you or draining. Once you know about this mismatch, you can start looking for relationships where both people share more and where your stories and experiences are valued just as much as theirs. It's like the shiny surface of a lake. It looks deep and meaningful at first glance, but when you look more closely, it doesn't have any substance. In these situations, people may copy the actions of a close friend or devoted partner. They may keep in touch, laugh, and do things that seem to be from the heart. The real depth. There are different signs that someone isn't really committed. You may notice that while they are quick to enjoy the good things about the relationship, they are just as quick to pull away when they have to put in work or make a sacrifice. When they need help, their support is often weak or non-existent. They may be there for the celebrations and good times, but they are noticeably absent when things go wrong or they are vulnerable. In addition, this kind of superficial closeness lacks the trust and dependability that make real relationships what they are. Plans are often made, but then quickly forgotten. Promises are made, but rarely kept. Their involvement in the relationship is usually on their own terms, which are based on ease and self-interest. People often do this to keep a group of acquaintances ready to help them without putting in the emotional work that real relationships require. It's a way to keep people close for ease but far away so you don't have to make a commitment to them. Basically, it's a way to enjoy the benefits of being close without the risks of real connection or responsibility. To figure out what's really going on in a relationship, it's important to see through the surface closeness. This means paying attention to how you and the other person engage and asking yourself if the closeness you feel is based on real commitment and shared vulnerability. You need to know if the emotional work you're doing is being returned, or if it's just about meeting the other person's wants. On the surface, these